The Northern Virginia sheriff is facing federal corruption charges tied to an alleged bribery scheme. He's accused of trading cash bribes for badges. Our chief investigative reporter Eric Flack is here with the news, coming into our newsroom just a couple of hours ago. And Flack, what do we know right now?
Hey, Zoe, this 16-count indictment was just unsealed this afternoon, and it accuses Culpeper County Sheriff Scott Jenkins of, quote, using the power of his office to enrich himself and to secure funds for his reelection by accepting cash bribes and bribes in the form of large campaign contributions. The Department of Justice said the bribes totaled at least $72,500 from three Northern Virginia businessmen. They are 64-year-old Frederick Grumbiner of Fairfax, 55-year-old Rick Tariq Rahim of Great Falls, and 60-year-old James Metcalf of Manassas. Now, in return for the bribes, Jenkins allegedly appointed each of the men auxiliary deputy sheriffs. That's a sworn law enforcement position. Jenkins is accused of issuing all of them Culpeper County Sheriff's Office badges and ID cards. The scheme allegedly dates back to 2019, the last time Sheriff Jenkins was reelected. Jenkins and all three businessmen are charged with conspiracy, wire fraud, and bribery. If convicted, each defendant faces a maximum penalty of 5 years in prison on the conspiracy count, 20 years in prison on each of the wire fraud counts, and a maximum of 10 years in prison on each of those federal bribery counts. Zoe?
These are some pretty damning allegations there, Flack. Now, for a lot of people, Sheriff Jenkins, that name, that face might sound familiar, right?
Yeah, he's been in the spotlight before. In 2019, Jenkins made headlines when he vowed to deputize county residents if the Democratic majority in the state legislature passed what he called, quote, further unnecessary gun restrictions. Sheriff Jenkins did not follow through on that pledge, though he is on the ballot, Jenkins is, for re-election in Culpeper County this November.
All right, Flack, we know you're going to stay on top of this for us. Thank you.
All right, still ahead, we're getting you ready for the 4th of July. We're going to share some local spots with good views of the big show over the mall.
Prince George's County Police explain why a teen curfew is not their first choice for fighting crime this summer. I'm Scott Broom in Prince George's County. Coming up, plans to target specific hotspots to stop carjacking and shootings.
Plus, we're coming off a violent night in the district. A child, a 5-year-old, shot, and neighbors are frightened and fed up.
Right now, it's not safe. We need to do something about it. And until we do something about it, keep your kids inside.
Yeah, what some of our neighbors are proposing to keep our young people safe this summer. We'll be right back. All right, so the 4th of July, almost here, looking at those spots already, huh?
Yeah, I'm kind of scoping some things out, although as I look online, it's hard to see very many of them because of what's happening right now. But, you know, we know DC goes big for Independence Day. Maybe you want to see the fireworks on the National Mall, but you don't want to head out all the way down there with all the crowds.
Guess what? You're in luck. There are some other great under-the-radar spots to catch the big show. Here's a couple of ideas for you tonight. The National Cathedral, right off Wisconsin Avenue in Northwest, is one of the highest points in DC. There's a big grassy slope where you can set up a chair, bring a blanket, sit and watch the show. You've got a clear view of everything, and it's a bit more low-key.
Yeah, then you have the Key Bridge in Georgetown, which is tremendous for that panoramic view. You see the Kennedy Center in the foreground, the water, it's beautiful.
And one more here, the Air Force Memorial in Arlington. You can really see the whole city from there. Look at that right there.
It's so fun. So now comes the part with your phone. If you scan this QR code with your phone, you'll get a link to a write-up on all these spots and other places you can go to see the fireworks show. It's all on WUSA9.com.
WUSA 9 Weather Watch Alert is sponsored by Morgan & Morgan.
I'm feeling triggered by what you're about to talk about.
I know. It's hard to believe, but we're going to talk about the derecho. Back in time.
Yeah.
2012. I mean, it was unbelievable time. I've never seen the atmosphere that unstable.
Yeah.
So we had wind gusts at national of 70 miles per hour, 71 mile per hour wind gusts at Dulles, 66 at BWI, 1.5 million folks without power. And the worst part is that we lost power for like 6 days at my house.
Yeah.
It didn't get cool.
I know.
That
We
was
said
the
the same
problem.
thing. Yeah. I don't think I've ever been
Well, you
without
were
power
for-
for a week.
Was it a week for
It
you?
was a
Yeah.
week.
It was a week.
Yeah.
And it was miserable and just miserably hot. So yeah, it took a while to get the DMV back on their feet. Of course, that was the tournament at Congressional. They lost a bunch of trees, but somehow got the tournament in. So this, speaking of derecho, this is a derecho right here. Look at that. Okay, it's a solid line. The derecho is straight, so it's a straight line of storms. Usually it's about 200 miles in length and usually produces winds 70, 80 miles per hour across the board. That's what we had. In fact, we were on the air that night saying, hey, treat it like a tornado warning and sleep on the first floor. Don't sleep upstairs. Okay, so yes, we are still under a code red. We're still under a weather watch alert. Because of that, we are in an unhealthy air, which means that's unhealthy for everyone. And it covers us, Philadelphia, New York, and up to the well, really up the eastern seaboard for the most part. So again, we think it's going to get better by tomorrow. All right, pollen count. No real surprise here. It's moderate for trees, low for grasses and mold spore, low for grasses and weeds, and mold spore is still high. And we do feel that's going to stay high for quite some time as we go through the next few days because we have showers and storms. All right, now we're talking about headlines. So it's kind of rinse and repeat here. Some storms tomorrow, and again, you know, the atmosphere is going to be unstable enough where a few storms that develop, some could be hefty. Same on Saturday, same on Sunday, but the difference on Sunday, I think the showers and storms could be at any time, not just necessarily confined to the afternoon or evening. So here's Futurecast. 10 o'clock tonight, no worries. I think it'll be okay to take a walk outside. As long as you have an ailment, you're fine. Upper 60s, low 70s. By morning, in the 60s to 70s to start, and then mid-70s by 9 o'clock. And it gets pretty toasty. I mean, by 1 o'clock, we're back in the upper 80s downtown, 86 in Hagerstown, 87 in Bowie and Bethesda. And then, boom, by 6 o'clock tomorrow, here comes some storms. Again, not that many, but they're pretty hefty. Look at the red. So don't get too hung up on where those storms are located. Just be advised we're going to see a few storms tomorrow. Some could be hefty. They move through pretty quickly, so I think you'll be able to, you know, have your Friday night plans after the storms roll through if you get hit, and many of us won't see any storms at all. And then by Saturday, we start out okay, 8 o'clock, 11:30, still okay in the low 80s, and then boom, by 4 o'clock, it's got showers and storms popping again across parts of the metro. And some of those could be kind of hefty. And by 8 o'clock, some more storms back toward Fairfax and up toward Frederick and down toward Waldorf. So it's going to be one of those weekends, pretty typical, where we're going to see showers and storms almost every evening and afternoon. Look at this, by late Saturday night, some big storms possible up near Martinsburg and Frederick. So just be ready and keep our app handy to track them. All right, so some storms tomorrow, some storms on Saturday, showers and storms on Sunday, and temperatures, look at that, around 90 across the board. In fact, we get 90s all the way through the 7-day. How about that? Tuesday, a few storms are possible on Tuesday and Monday. We'd like to keep Tuesday dry. It's the 4th, but there's still an isolated chance. More storms possible on Wednesday. Better chance, though, on Thursday. Nat's back in town Monday. And again, highs 90 or higher the next 7 days.
Okay, at least it's warming up.
Yeah.
Thank you, Top. So the air outside is bad, but it's delivering some really amazing, crazy photos. And a lot of you are capturing the sky and sending us your shots to us through the Near Me section on our WUSA 9 app. So here are just a couple of them. You can see throughout our region, we've received a few. Like this one just west toward Leesburg. You can see there in the foreground here, you can make out the trees, but in the distance, look at the hazy skies there. Thank you to Debbie for sending that in to us. Here in the district, we have this one from Todd Allnut. This was shortly after noon today, and look at that. You can barely make out the monument and the Lincoln Memorial there. Wow, that's stunning. All right, and Les, here's this one's for you right here. You know who took that photo there? Know that guy.
You did.
Yeah, there we go.
I'm
So, yeah.
so glad you shared it because that is magic.
So this is what we were talking about a little earlier. Wow. Typically, you can see the Capitol dome
Yeah.
right there, but you can barely make it out. But look at that. You can see
Nice.
the cars kind of there in the foreground as well. So keep sending your photos in to us. We want to see your smoky sunrises, sunsets, and skies. Just download the WUSA 9 app and tap on that bright orange tile on the homepage to upload your pictures and videos.
Zoe, you have a great eye. All right, you may never be president, but if you have deep pockets, you could still live like one. Best story. Right?
Wow.
Don't you want that?
Dreams are just quashed, you know? All right, and from a fake White House to movie magic, where Marvel was spotted shooting a superhero movie in D.C. in the middle of the night. The behind-the-scenes look ahead coming up on the news at 6.
So you might never be president.
No, but if you have deep pockets, you know, you can live like one just a bit.
That's what you want.
Exactly. A house designed to look like the White House is now on the market. I don't think the White House looks like this. The
No,
pool
they
and
don't have a
everything.
pool like that.
Right. That backyard is nice. This is in Hillsborough, California, right near San Francisco.
I like their version of the Rose Garden, though. The original home dates back to the 1800s. In the 1920s, George Hearst, the grandson of millionaire William Hearst, hired an architect to make it look like the White House.
The story is that he had aspirations to be a presidential candidate one day. His idea was to gift it to the United States government to make it a Western White House.
Interesting.
That didn't really happen, though.
No, but it's like, why would you want a similar house? Like, okay,
So
anyway.
you want to see something different.
Different. If I'm
after
going out
you're
west,
cooped up in that house, you
right.
know?
Okay. So rooms are modeled after their counterparts in the real White House. Like, there's an East room in here as well. And yes, there's a rose garden, like Les mentioned. That's beautiful. Asking price, by the way, is $38.9 million. Enjoy. Silence.